You know that feeling, don't you? Waking up, scrolling through your phone, and bam, another headline screaming about AI.
Oh, yeah,
A
nonstop.
new chatbot launched, some breakthrough just announced, another pronouncement that, everything we know is about to fundamentally change.
It's a lot.
It's exhilarating, yeah, sometimes, but honestly, it's also just a little overwhelming.
Completely. It feels like you're constantly trying to catch up.
Exactly. Like we're always on the edge of some massive technological revolution, and it's just hard to tell what's really transformative, what's genuinely going to stick versus what's just a really, really good marketing campaign.
And that distinction is crucial, isn't it?
It really is. So today, we're embarking on a deep dive, specifically designed to try and cut through precisely that noise. We're going to explore the significant and often, let's be honest, jarring gap between the monumental hype we're all relentlessly bombarded with and the actual emerging practical realities of AI.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, and I think what makes this deep dive so timely, is just how quickly the whole narrative around AI seems to have swung.
How so?
Well, we've moved from this period of almost widespread awe, at its incredible potential, to what some people are now openly calling an AI bubble.
A bubble.
And
Yeah.
the argument is that it's primarily driven by a very sophisticated, almost surgical kind of marketing.
The art of the hype, as our source material calls it.
Precisely. And this raises an absolutely crucial question for all of us, really, as individuals just trying to navigate this rapidly evolving landscape. How do we, the learners, the consumers of all this information, how do we intelligently discern genuine, maybe incremental progress from
From the manufactured excitement.
and all the slick strategic messaging that goes with it?
Exactly. It's not always straightforward, is it?
Yeah.
And that discernment, that critical thinking, is precisely what we want to help foster today. That's really the heart of it, isn't it? Our journey today isn't just about understanding what AI is doing right now, in the labs or maybe already in the apps we use.
Which is interesting in itself, of course.
Absolutely. But critically, it's also about how we talk about it. The stories we tell ourselves and others, the narratives that are being deliberately spun.
And why does that matter so much?
Well, because those narratives, they directly influence how we integrate this technology into our daily lives, right? How we approach our work, how businesses invest, even how we perceive our own value in a world that feels like it's changing faster than ever.
Our sense of self-worth, almost.
Yeah, potentially. So our insights today are primarily drawn from a really compelling, I found, refreshingly candid perspective shared by the writer Mehdi Hasan. His piece has this provocative title, The AI Bubble and the Art of the Hype.
It definitely catches the eye.
It does. And we're going to thoroughly unpack his arguments, look at his personal observations, and really grapple with his very direct, often quite challenging critique of the current AI discourse.
And that leads us directly to our mission for you, the listener.
Exactly.
The goal of this deep dive is really to try and equip you with the tools to cut through that constant hum, that barrage of information. We'll meticulously examine the growing skepticism, and there is quite a bit of it
I
now.
still feel it building.
You can. But we also need to acknowledge the undeniable, the legitimate progress that is happening in AI. It's not all hype.
No, absolutely not. Balance is key.
Right. So by doing that, by looking at both sides, you can hopefully gain a clearer, more nuanced understanding of AI's true, multifaceted impact. We want to help you uncover those aha moments, maybe challenge some assumptions you hold.
Assumptions maybe you didn't even know you had.
Precisely. And ultimately, the goal is to feel more informed and hopefully a little less overwhelmed by it all without getting bogged down in just, endless information overload.
Clarity and actionable insight. That's the aim.
Is it the plan?
Okay, so let's begin by grounding ourselves. Let's start with something really personal and I think incredibly relatable. It's a great entry point into this whole discussion. Mehdi Hasan. He opens his piece by sharing his own profound struggle, a feeling I imagine many creatives, many professionals out there might really resonate with.
What is it?
For the better part of the last 2 years, he says he's been grappling with what he frankly calls an existential crisis.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah, an existential crisis over his identity as a writer. He feels, quite acutely he says, that his decade-honed skills he dedicated so much time, passion, effort to mastering are suddenly on the verge of being dismissed.
Oof. That hits hard.
Doesn't it? Can you truly imagine dedicating, say, 10, 15 years of your professional life to perfecting a craft, whatever it is, only to wake up one day and hear this pervasive idea that, well, it's now easily replicable, or worse, maybe even obsolete thanks to some new tool.
It's a powerful and really immediate human impact of these technological waves that Hassan captures so well there. His experience, it just highlights how our identity, our expertise things, often deeply, deeply intertwined with our self-worth, can suddenly become points of profound vulnerability during these periods of rapid technological disruption.
It's not just about the tech itself.
No, absolutely not. This isn't just about understanding the technical details of algorithms or, the efficiency of code. It's about the very real psychological and professional toll these rapid shifts can take on individuals.
And Hassan's personal story, it resonates, doesn't it? You hear echoes of it across different fields.
Oh, definitely. It resonates with a pervasive sentiment that's echoing across many creative industries, knowledge-based industries right now. Professionals feeling their craft is being somehow devalued or maybe even commoditized.
Like it's just another product.
Kind of. And we've seen historical parallels with other disruptive technologies, haven't we? Think about, I don't know, how photography challenged painting back in the 19th century.
Sure. Or digital music and the record industry.
Exactly. Each time there's this initial wave of anxiety, this feeling that, oh no, new skills are required. Because suddenly, thanks to AI tools in this case, the idea floating around is that everyone is a writer now, or everyone's an artist, or everyone's a coder.
Right. It forces us to confront how much of our professional identity is tied up in those skills we thought were unique.
And what happens when those skills are suddenly declared easily replicable? The big question then becomes, well, how do we adapt? How do we redefine our value in that kind of landscape? It's a fundamental challenge.
It really is, that feeling of a decade's mastery potentially being undermined.
Wow.
And Hassan, he doesn't just stop with this personal introspection. He uses a really vivid analogy, one that helps him frame the broader AI conversation.
Okay, what's the analogy?
He likens himself to the boy in the fable who cried wolf.
Okay. Classic story.
But in his version, in our contemporary world of AI, the real wolf, which he defines as artificial general intelligence or AGI, he says it's nowhere in sight.
So the ultimate danger isn't actually here yet.
That's his argument. He's very direct about it, asserting that AGI, true human-level intelligence in machines, doesn't seem possible with current architecture. That's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? To basically declare the ultimate goal of AI research, or at least one major goal, out of reach for now.
It is a bold claim, and it's one that really requires us to be very precise with our terminology, which is something often lacking in the general discussion, I think.
Definitely. So break that down for us.
Well, Hassan is meticulously differentiating between what we currently have and what has been long promised. On one hand, we have what's called narrow AI.
Okay.
These systems excel at highly specific tasks. Think of the AI that generates text based on your prompts, or recognizes faces in your photos, or plays chess, or go better than any human champion. They're incredibly powerful, but only within their defined, narrow parameters.
Got it. Specialized tools.
Exactly. On the other hand, there's the concept of artificial general intelligence, AGI. This implies a machine possessing human-level cognitive abilities, the ability to understand, learn, apply intelligence across a vast, unstructured range of tasks, just like you or I could.
Common sense, creativity.
Right. Common sense, creative reasoning, adapting to completely novel situations without needing explicit pre-programming for that specific situation.
And that's the wolf in his analogy.
That's the wolf. The pursuit of AGI is often presented as the ultimate benchmark, isn't it? It's the holy grail that underpins many of the more fantastical claims we hear about AI's future impact.
World-changing stuff.
Yeah. And its continued absence, despite all the hype, despite the massive investment, legitimately fuels skepticism about what we actually possess today versus what we're consistently being promised is just around the corner.
So the promise keeps getting pushed back.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
And Hassan goes further. He directly states that terms like AGI itself, or even ASI, that's artificial superintelligence, which would supposedly far surpass human intellect.
Right, the Skynet scenario for some.
Or, even the more recent buzzwords like Agent 1 or Agent 2, referring to these highly autonomous, self-directing AI systems. He says, for now, they all remain firmly in the realm of science fiction.
Wow. Firmly sci-fi.
That really emphasizes his strong stance. He's essentially saying, look, while we have incredibly clever tools, maybe surprisingly clever tools.
Tools that can feel intelligent sometimes.
Absolutely. But the fundamental generalized intelligence, the kind that would truly replicate or surpass human cognition across the board, he argues it simply isn't present in our current computational models, our data processing structures. This distinction is just crucial if we want to ground our understanding in reality rather than constantly chasing speculative futures.
Okay, so that sets the stage. We have narrow AI now, AGI is maybe sci-fi for the moment. But here's where it gets really interesting. And as we noted, the author, Hassan, he doesn't pull any punches. He moves from the theoretical right into the specific. He directly calls Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, probably the most visible figure in AI right now. He calls him an even bigger liar than the shepherd boy in his fable.
Whoa. Okay. That's not holding back.
Not at all. It's a really strong accusation leveled right at the top. So why? Why such a harsh critique? Hassan argues that Altman deliberately built up immense hype around the release of GPT-5.
The latest big model from OpenAI.
Exactly. Implying, Hassan says, that it would be this AGI-level innovation, something truly groundbreaking, an innovation that would leave us all spellbound. That was the expectation set.
Right, I remember the buzz. It was intense.
Totally. But what happened instead? According to Hassan, the reality was, well, underwhelming. He says the world was disappointed with the latest model. And he observes that people are now actually beginning to lose interest in AI technology altogether.
A backlash almost.
Maybe a fatigue, because it couldn't live up to those sky-high, maybe unrealistic expectations. He does admit GPT-5 is an improvement. Sure, it's better than 4.5, but it clearly wasn't a promised revolutionary leap.
Right, more evolution than revolution.
Exactly. So the big question is, what does this cycle mean? What does this intense hype followed by disappointment mean for how we perceive future AI announcements? And maybe for the industry itself.
Well, this specific critique, focusing on Altman and GPT-5, it raises an absolutely vital concern about the responsibility, the ethical responsibility, maybe, of leaders and corporations in these emerging tech sectors.
The ones setting the narrative.
Precisely. The kind of marketing Hassan describes here, what he calls that master class in next-level marketing, it often leads to a very predictable cycle, doesn't it? A boom and bust cycle.
We've seen it before in tech.
Oh, absolutely. We see this initial, often vastly inflated excitement, which then gives way to widespread cynicism when those expectations perhaps inevitably fall short. And this pattern, it can profoundly hinder real, steady, incremental progress.
Because people get disillusioned.
Exactly. And perhaps more damagingly in the long run, it erodes public trust. Hassan's focus on Altman really highlights just how powerful narrative is in shaping public perception. When a product or an advancement simply cannot live up to the grand, almost mythical story spun around it.
The backlash can be pretty severe.
It can.
Yeah.
Leading to general disengagement, maybe even resistance to the technology. This isn't just about one single product launch like GPT-5. It's really a cautionary tale about the psychology of hype cycles in technology.
The dot-com bubble comes to mind.
Or aspects of the crypto booms, yeah. Promises of world-changing technologies often just outpace the actual scientific and engineering capabilities at that moment, sometimes leading to what people call vaporware products announced with huge fanfare but little actual substance behind them yet.
Right. All sizzle, no steak.
Pretty much. And the long-term consequences of those strategies. They can include investor skepticism down the line, consumer fatigue, just getting tired of the constant hype, and maybe even increased regulatory scrutiny as the public's patience wears thin.
Okay, let's cast our minds back a little bit then. Back to that initial explosion of AI chatbots. Remember that almost dizzying period when ChatGPT first burst onto the scene? Late 2022.
Feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? But yeah, I remember.
Hassan reminds us that its release, it triggered this unbelievable wave of investment into AI-powered chatbot models globally. Everyone, it seemed, was pouring money into this new frontier.
The gold rush was on.
Totally. But he also points out a critical, often overlooked detail from that time, that at the very beginning, all of them, ChatGPT, Google's Bard, which became Gemini, Claude, Microsoft's Copilot, you name them, they were, in his words, riddled with problems.
Yeah, those early days were experimental.
He says they often couldn't even understand the question properly, and their answers were full of glaring errors.
Oh, I remember some truly baffling responses.
Right, and Hassan gives this fantastic, almost comically stark personal example. He once saw a model confidently stating that the national flower of Bangladesh is the rose.
Okay, and it's not?
Nope, it's the water lily. Apparently, not even close.
Huh. That's quite specific.
It is, and that specific, almost absurd error It really sticks with you, doesn't it? It just vividly illustrates the gap between the aspiration, the potential everyone saw, and the early reality.
It truly is a perfect illustration of just how far these models still had to go, even as they were generating such immense excitement and attracting billions in investment.
Right.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is not just the errors themselves, the wrong flower type of thing, but how we as early users, developers, the media, how we reacted to them. And crucially, how those errors were explained away.
Ah, the explanation. That's key.
It is, because that period, it starkly emphasized the crucial difference between early stage development, where, experimentation and flaws are kind of expected part of the process.
Sure, you break things to make things.
Right. Versus polished, reliable products that are actually ready for mass adoption in critical applications. The widespread, almost instant access to these flawed early versions, despite their shortcomings, it simultaneously set the stage for both incredible excitement about the raw potential and profound frustration over their very real limitations.
A double-edged sword.
Absolutely. Those initial experiences were foundational. They shaped public perception early on about what AI could and couldn't do, and they really highlighted the enormous amount of refinement and development that was still required. It truly underscores that simply having a product isn't enough. Its reliability and its accuracy are paramount for any real-world utility.
Okay, and this brings us to a really interesting, almost ingenious point Hassan makes about the language used around those early errors. So instead of just a straightforward admission, oops, the AI was wrong about the flower.
Which would seem the simple approach.
Right. What excuse were we often given instead? Hassan highlights this linguistic shift. He states, the excuse we were given was that AI knows so much information that it might be hallucinating.
Hallucinating, there's that word.
Exactly. The explanation was, supposedly, it was struggling to digest a vast sea of data, leading to a kind of intellectual indigestion.
That sounds quite sophisticated.
It does, doesn't it? And he then critically asks, why? Why did no one simply said the AI is wrong? Instead, he argues, a new term was coined to give its errors a sophisticated gloss. He even poses it directly to us, to you, the listener. If a human made such a mistake, would we be so generous? Would we say they were hallucinating?
Probably not. We'd say they were mistaken, or maybe lying, depending on the context.
Right, so Hassan very clearly suggests this wasn't just an accidental choice of words. He implies it was a deliberate, strategic choice, kind of linguistic sleight of hand designed to maintain the sophisticated, almost mystical image of AI, rather than admitting to more mundane, prosaic technical shortcomings.
Yeah, this whole hallucination framing, it isn't just about semantics, is it? It's truly a masterclass in, reputation management. And it offers a core insight for us as listeners trying to really understand the AI landscape critically.
What's the core insight there?
The key takeaway, I think, is to recognize how language is strategically used to anthropomorphize AI.
To give it human qualities.
Exactly, to attribute human characteristics, human-like thought processes, even human-like flaws to it. By using a term like hallucinating, the errors suddenly sound less like a technical fault, a glitch in the code, a limitation in its data processing.
Like a bug.
Right, and more like a quirky, almost intelligent oversight. It subtly shifts the blame, doesn't it? Away from a defect in the system towards an overflow of its own brilliance. Like, its mind is so vast, so full of information, it occasionally gets overwhelmed and makes these poetic mistakes.
That's a very generous interpretation of getting the national flower wrong.
It is. And this tactic, it's crucial for us to discern genuine progress from sophisticated public relations. If we think about the broader implications, this kind of linguistic framing, it serves to protect the technology's image, maybe bolster investor confidence, shield it from harsher critiques.
Makes it sound more advanced than it might be.
Potentially.
Yes.
It definitely encourages us to be critical of the explanations we accept. Are we truly understanding the complex nature of these AI errors? Or are we being subtly guided towards a more palatable, almost endearing interpretation? It's a powerful lesson in how words can shape perception, even when we're talking about cutting-edge technology.
Okay, so we've got the hype cycle, the disappointment, the clever language to explain away errors. Now let's move into an even more dramatic aspect of this marketing masterclass, according to Hassan. One that delves into potentially cultivating fear as a strategy.
Fear. Okay, this sounds intense.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting. And frankly, a little unsettling, maybe.
Yeah.
Hassan brings up the curious and widely discussed case of the Death Star image.
Ah, yes, I remember this. Sam Altman again.
Right. Just 24 hours before the highly anticipated release of GPT-5, Sam Altman shared a single, captionless image on X, formerly Twitter. What was it? The Death Star from Star Wars, ominously rising over an Earth-like planet.
Just the image. No words.
Exactly. Now, Hassan notes that Altman later backtracked on the image's implications, tried to downplay it, perhaps. But, as Hassan points out, critics were quick to point out that the image didn't depict the death of a star, but the death of our world.
A pretty stark interpretation.
Quite the symbolic statement for a tech launch, isn't it? And it certainly resonated in a very specific, almost primal way with a lot of people.
Yeah, that particular incident, it really highlights the art of the hype, as Hassan calls it, but it also taps into and potentially manipulates the deep-seated anxieties that already exist around AI in society.
Whether it's intended that way or not.
Right, whether such symbolic gestures are intended to be deliberately provocative or simply, a marketing misstep, they undeniably contribute significantly to the narrative of AI as an existential threat.
It fuels that fire.
It absolutely does. It's a powerful example of how marketing can intentionally, or perhaps unintentionally, amplify societal anxieties just to create buzz, even if that buzz is fear-driven. The public, quite naturally, is often primed to interpret these powerful emerging technologies through extreme lenses, either as a benevolent savior or as an unstoppable destroyer.
The two ends of the spectrum.
Exactly. And an image like the Death Star, even without a direct caption explaining it, strongly leans into that latter interpretation, doesn't it? It invokes visions of uncontrollable power, destruction, maybe even the end of humanity.
It's potent imagery.
Very potent. Such imagery plays on universal fears: fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of a future where humanity might be superseded or even eliminated by its own creations. It's a powerful, if ethically dubious perhaps, way to keep a technology at the forefront of public consciousness, regardless of the actual capabilities of the specific product being launched at that moment.
And speaking of fear, Hassan delves deeper into what he sees as a pervasive and, in his view, largely unfounded narrative of existential dread surrounding AI.
So not just the marketing imagery, but the broader conversation.
Exactly. He himself feels that the suddenness of this technological push has created immense fear and anxiety right across society. You feel it, right?
What do? It's palpable sometimes.
But, crucially, when he looks at the actual capabilities, the current trajectory of AI development, he emphatically states he sees no basis for this existential dread, not now and not in the foreseeable future.
So he's pushing back hard against the doomsayers.
Very hard. And he's clearly heard those same podcasts and watched those same YouTube videos we probably all have. He describes the common tropes. AI is coming. The world is about to end. Are you prepared?
The dramatic headlines?
Oh, yeah. He cites one particularly sensational podcast title he came across, Just Try to Survive Until 2035.
Survive until 2035. Why?
Well, the chilling implication, apparently, was that if you just make it to that year, you'll somehow achieve immortality, presumably thanks to AI.
Okay, that's quite a leap.
It's almost unbelievable, right? The audacity, as he puts it, of some of these claims. He mentioned another piece of advice he heard. Spend your remaining time writing science fiction.
Why science fiction?
The idea, apparently, was that if a future super-intelligent AI eventually reads your stories and likes them, it might be impressed enough to spare humanity.
Wow. So, write for your life, literally.
Pretty much. Hassan really challenges the audacity and the sheer absurdity of such tall tales, and he asks a very pointed question. Why is there such a rush to destroy the world? Why this constant focus on apocalypse?
It's a fair question, and this particular observation from Hassan, it raises a critically important point about the responsibilities, again, of content creators, influencers, maybe even journalists, in shaping the public discourse around these emerging technologies.
How we frame the story.
Exactly. While it is absolutely vital for experts, policymakers, and the public alike to contemplate potential risks, to think about ethical considerations for responsible development, that's crucial.
Sure, we need that discussion.
Absolutely. But an excessive, often sensationalist focus on dystopian futures can, and often does, generate unnecessary panic. It distracts from real, actionable concerns today.
Like bias in current AI systems or job displacement.
Precisely. Those tangible issues. And paradoxically, the constant doom-mongering can overshadow genuine opportunities for positive impact using AI. This kind of fear-mongering, it plays on fundamental human tendencies, doesn't it? Towards sensationalism, our innate fear of the unknown, and these tendencies are just amplified exponentially in our digital, hyper-connected age.
The algorithms feed on clicks, and fear gets clicks.
That's often how it works. Hassan's critique is essentially that these apocalyptic narratives are not only largely unfounded in current technological reality, but they're also deeply counterproductive. They create this climate of anxiety that makes rational, nuanced discussion incredibly difficult. And that could potentially lead to, misallocation of resources, bad policy, or even hindering the development of AI applications that could genuinely benefit humanity. It's really a call for a more grounded, evidence-based conversation rather than one constantly driven by speculative doomsday scenarios.
Okay, now the author, Hassan, then offers a really stark, incredibly poignant contrast. He draws a direct line between these hypothetical, maybe manufactured apocalyptic AI scenarios and the very real, immediate human suffering happening in the world right now. It serves as a powerful anchor for his entire argument.
How does he make that connection?
He grounds his critique in real-world human suffering. He states, with what feels like raw emotion, "When I see how people are dying in Gaza, the sermons on humanity already ring hollow."
Wow, that's incredibly direct.
It is. And just to be clear for our listeners, we're reporting Hassan's viewpoint here from the source material. He uses this comparison to make a specific point about misplaced fears. He questions the urgency of, in his words, turning the entire planet into a Gaza Strip with these manufactured AI fears when so much immediate, tangible suffering is occurring right now.
So he sees a disconnect in our priorities.
A profound disconnect. He shares a very personal feeling, too, describing himself as a poor man, stuck on Earth, left to perish like an insect. And then he wonders, with this touch of dark irony, if maybe an AI reading his science fiction might grant him immortality after all.
It's powerful. And deeply cynical, perhaps.
It really makes you pause, doesn't it? Makes you think hard about what fears and what priorities we as a society are choosing to focus on, and maybe, as he suggests, misdirecting our attention, our energy, our anxiety away from more immediate crises.
This particular observation, it really underscores the author's core argument about the disproportionality of the fear being generated by these AI doomsday scenarios, especially when you contrast them with urgent present-day human crises.
Right.
Hassan uses this deeply personal and impactful comparison, as you said, not necessarily to make a political statement about that specific conflict itself, but rather to highlight what he perceives as a profound disconnect in the global conversation.
The disconnect is the key.
Yes, he is challenging us, challenging you, the listener, to consider where our attention, our intellectual resources, our anxieties are actually being directed. Are we focusing disproportionately on speculative, perhaps distant threats, while maybe overlooking or downplaying tangible, immediate human needs and challenges right in front of us?
It forces a reflection on our collective priorities.
It really does. For Hassan, the manufactured fear of an AI apocalypse rings hollow, seems almost trivial when set against the backdrop of real, immediate suffering. It makes him question the sincerity, maybe even the true intent behind some of the grand, terrifying prophecies often associated with AI's future. It's a powerful personal commentary on the current discourse, urging us all to ground our technological discussions much more firmly in real-world ethics and immediate human impact.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly now and get down to a more practical level. One that directly impacts you, the listener, especially if you're involved in any kind of creative work, professional writing, content creation, that sort of thing.
Right, the actual usability.
Exactly. Hassan specifically talks about GPT-5's creative shortcomings from his perspective as a writer. He notes that for him personally, the leap from 4.5 to 5.0 has been a letdown.
Despite the improvements.
He finds that even the latest iteration still can't write a decent article, let alone a proper essay. That's his assessment.
Okay, and why not? What's missing?
For him, the key flaw, the ultimate deal breaker, is something profoundly simple, yet incredibly complex to replicate. The biggest problem, he says, is that the writing has no soul.
No soul. That's subjective, but powerful.
It is. And he admits, interestingly, that he was initially willing to overlook that, the lack of soul, the generic feel perhaps, because the promise was so enticing. The promise that everyone could be a writer now, that the efficiency would be revolutionary.
The trade-off seemed worth it at first.
But then came the true deal breaker for him. The pervasive discovery of misinformation, getting things wrong. Like the Bangladesh flower example, but maybe less obviously.
The accuracy problem again, the hallucination.
And he poses this really critical question, one that I think resonates with anyone who's tried to use these tools professionally for serious work. If I have to cross-check every single piece of information in an AI-generated outline, what's the point of using it?
Yeah, that really cuts to the chase, doesn't it? This insight from Hassan, it raises an absolutely fundamental question for our listeners, for anyone using these tools. Are we merely automating mediocrity? Or are we truly augmenting human capability and creativity?
A big difference.
Huge. Hassan's experience highlights the current and I think still profound limitations of AI in producing genuinely creative, insightful, or reliably accurate content without extensive human oversight and intervention.
The soul part is tricky.
It is. When he speaks of writing having no soul, he's touching on all those nuances of human expression, isn't he? The subtle inflections of tone, the unique perspective born from experience, the emotional resonance, the critical thinking, the original conceptualization, all the things that AI, which is fundamentally based on pattern recognition and statistical likelihood through its training data, currently struggles mightily to replicate authentically.
It can mimic, but not originate in the same way.
Precisely. AI can synthesize information. Yes, it can string together grammatically correct sentences, sometimes very fluently, but it often lacks that capacity for genuine originality, deep empathy, or the kind of contextual understanding that really characterizes compelling human writing.
And then there's the misinformation.
Right. Furthermore, the problem of misinformation or hallucination, it's not just a minor inconvenience, it represents a significant, potentially dangerous challenge to the utility of these tools for professional work.
Why is this so inherent?
Well, large language models, by their very nature, their core design, are built to generate plausible-sounding text. They predict the next most likely word based on the patterns they learned. They are not designed fundamentally to retrieve or verify factual truths.
They're like sophisticated autocompletes, in a way.
In a very complex way, yes. They pull from these vast data sets, and sometimes, inevitably, those data sets contain biases, outdated information, or just plain incorrect data. The AI then confidently hallucinates or fabricates details that might seem perfectly coherent, might sound authoritative, but are entirely false.
And that requires the human fact-checker.
Exactly. The need for extensive cross-checking effectively transfers the entire burden of verification back onto the user, which, as Hassan asks, potentially negates the perceived time savings, especially for tasks requiring high accuracy or genuine original thought. So if the soul is missing and the facts are questionable, well, the value proposition for professional, impactful writing is severely compromised, isn't it? It demands an immense amount of human intervention to make the output credible, engaging, and reliable.
Which changes the whole calculation of efficiency.
It really does. This
Yep.
demands a critical shift in how we evaluate these AI tools. It's not just about the raw speed of generation, but much more about the reliability, the depth, and the actual quality of the output.
Okay, and this ties directly into another critical practical consideration for any of you listening who might be considering using AI for your own work. The actual time efficiency, and perhaps more importantly, the engagement woes.
Right. Does it actually save time, and does anyone care about the output?
Exactly. The author shares his personal, very candid timing experiment. For him, as a professional writer, writing a complete article from initial thought to final draft takes him about 2 to 3 hours at my natural typing speed. Maybe up to 5 hours if it requires extensive research woven in. That's his baseline.
Okay, human speed.
Now, how does AI compare to that human workflow? He admits AI can provide a lifeless, data-filled outline very fast.
Okay.
Sure, the initial generation is quick,
Right.
but then verifying its claims and refining the text takes at least another hour, sometimes more.
So the post-processing time eats up the initial gains.
Significantly in his experience, which means the supposed efficiency often comes with these hidden and quite significant quality control costs baked in. And maybe even more importantly, what's the ultimate outcome for this AI-assisted content out there in the real world? How does the audience react?
Does it perform well?
He states that reception is lukewarm at best. Engagement, things like comments, shares, time on page, engagement plummets. He notes that blog platforms don't feature the posts as readily. And for him personally, the bottom line, the numbers in my bank account remain stagnant.
Ouch. So no real return on that supposed efficiency.
Apparently not. And here's the real kicker, a truly sobering statistic he shares from his observations. Over 90% of readers are simply not interested in this type of writing.
90%? That's damning.
Isn't it? Over 90% turn away from content they perceive as AI-generated or heavily AI-assisted.
Wow. This provides a truly critical reality check, I think, that every learner, every professional needs to internalize. While the speed of AI generation is undeniably appealing in theory.
Who doesn't want to work faster?
Right. But if the output consistently lacks quality, if it lacks genuine engagement, if it lacks verifiable accuracy, then the overall value proposition just diminishes dramatically, almost to zero if 90% are interested. This tells us that true utility in the professional world, especially in communication, isn't just about how quickly something can be generated. It's fundamentally about its reception, its impact, its effectiveness in achieving a desired outcome, whether that's informing, persuading, entertaining, or connecting.
The human element still matters. A lot.
Immensely. For content creators, marketers, educators, anyone relying on written communication to connect with an audience, Hassan's experience unequivocally demonstrates that human touch, authenticity, original voice, and verifiable accuracy are still paramount. They're still highly valued by audiences.
Maybe even more so now as a differentiator.
That's a great point. The perceived efficiency of AI often comes with these substantial hidden costs. The time spent fact-checking, the effort required to inject that soul and engaging voice, and ultimately the opportunity cost of producing content that simply fails to resonate. When 90% of your potential readers aren't interested, that's a stark market signal. It's telling you something important.
Loud and clear.
It suggests that while AI can churn out words, maybe millions of them, it still struggles profoundly to produce meaning or connection in a way that captures and holds human attention, earns trust, and prompts action. This is a vital lesson for anyone looking to leverage these tools. Speed without quality, engagement, or reliability is ultimately, I think, a false economy. It can lead to diminished returns and, frankly, a lot of wasted effort.
It really demands a more nuanced evaluation of what efficiency truly entails in the context of effective communication.
Yeah.
It's not just about words per minute.
Absolutely not. It's about impact per effort.
Okay, so Hassan takes this accumulated disappointment, this frustration with the lack of soul, the inaccuracy, the inefficiency, the poor engagement, and he takes it to what he calls a more terrifying conclusion, almost a personal warning based on his experiences.
Terrifying. How so?
Well, he refers back to Sam Altman's grand talk of AGI and contrasts it with the actual limited reality of GPT-5, calling that disconnect itself terrifying. Then he speculates, if this level of AI makes these kinds of mistakes, how much more terrifying might a real ASI or a super-autonomous Agent 1 be if it exhibited the same kinds of flaws, the same lack of common sense, but operated on a much grander scale with more autonomy?
Right. The potential for errors scales with the power.
Exactly. And then, to ground this fear, he shares a direct, very telling, and frankly quite alarming anecdote from his own personal experience using AI.
Okay, what happened?
He was trying to speed up his laptop. He asked ChatGPT for advice on how to do it. He followed the AI's instructions, and in his words, he wiped all my applications with one incorrect command.
Oh no, wiped his whole system.
All the applications gone based on one command suggested by the AI.
Yikes. That's more than an inconvenience.
It really is.
Yep.
And that anecdote, wiping his entire system based on AI advice, it's such a stark reminder that these tools are not infallible, are they? They lack true understanding, true context, and frankly, they can be quite dangerous if you don't apply critical judgment and really understand the underlying implications of the commands or advice they're giving you.
Exactly. This anecdote, it underscores a critical, absolutely foundational distinction we need to keep in mind. The ability of current AI to simply scour trusted platforms and regurgitate information or generate code snippets based on patterns, that ability is fundamentally not the same thing as true intelligence.
It's pattern matching, not understanding.
Precisely. It's not genuine problem-solving in the human sense, and critically, it lacks an awareness of the real-world implications of an action. Hassan's laptop incident isn't just about his personal inconvenience. It's a powerful metaphor for the broader risks involved.
Scale that up.
Right. Imagine that kind of confident but fundamentally flawed execution happening in critical infrastructure systems or medical diagnostics or complex financial trading systems. It truly highlights the vast gap that still exists between the perceived sophistication of these tools and their current reality.
It looked smart, but wasn't.
The AI offered a solution likely based on pattern matching from its vast training data of online forums and technical documents. But it lacked the common sense, the contextual understanding of that specific user's setup, or the robust error-checking capability to understand the destructive finality of the command it suggested. It couldn't grasp the user's ultimate goal, speed up the laptop safely, or the irreversible consequences of its own recommendation.
A chilling lack of awareness.
It serves as a stark warning against blindly trusting AI. especially for complex or critical tasks where the stakes are high. And it just reinforces again and again the critical importance of human oversight, human judgment, and deep understanding, even when interacting with seemingly advanced and confident tools. The human brain still excels at common sense, causal reasoning, and understanding the messy complexities of the real world.
Okay, now it's really important to remember, and Hassan himself is careful about this, that despite all his significant criticisms, despite his almost visceral frustration with the hype and the flaws, he is not entirely anti-AI.
Right. It's not a Luddite argument.
Not at all. He's very careful to acknowledge AI's genuine achievement. He clearly states, "I still acknowledge that AI chatbots are a significant achievement." He sees the progress.
Okay, so what positives does he highlight?
Well, he sees a real, undeniable positive impact in how knowledge is shared. He notes that knowledge and information are more democratized than ever, thanks to these tools making information so accessible.
That's a fair point. Access has increased dramatically.
And he says he genuinely wants AI to help us with meaningful tasks, to build a better world rather than destroy it. That's his hope. So, if we try to strip away the hype, strip away the fear-mongering he critiques, what does this all mean for that better world we hope to build? How can AI truly contribute to that, in his view?
Well, this balanced perspective is absolutely crucial, isn't it? Hassan's viewpoint isn't a wholesale rejection of AI technology itself. It's primarily a rejection of the hype surrounding it, and perhaps even more strongly, the fear-mongering that often accompanies its promotion.
He's critiquing the narrative, not the core tech necessarily.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's all about distinguishing between genuine, beneficial innovation that actually serves humanity, and on the other hand, marketing narratives that primarily serve other agendas, maybe corporate profit, maybe investor excitement, maybe just clicks.
And the democratization of knowledge is a real benefit.
I think so. When Hassan speaks of the democratization of knowledge, he's acknowledging AI's real power to make vast amounts of information accessible and potentially understandable to a much wider audience than ever before. It can help break down barriers, language barriers, educational barriers that once limited access to data and expertise. And that can be transformative for research, for learning, for everyday problem solving.
If used wisely.
If used wisely. His core belief seems to be that knowledge is most valuable when it is not just accessed, but truly understood, applied thoughtfully, and used for constructive ends. And AI can indeed help with this, especially when we approach it with realistic expectations and a focus on solving tangible, real-world problems.
Like what kind of problems?
Oh, think of AI assisting in scientific discovery by sifting through incredibly complex data sets much faster than humans could, or helping personalize education to individual student needs. Or maybe just streamlining tedious administrative tasks to free up human capacity for more creative, strategic, or empathetic work.
Augmenting humans, not replacing them.
That's often the most productive framing, yes. The aspiration to build a better world with AI is a noble one, a shared one, I think. But achieving it requires a real commitment to ethical development, transparency about the limitations and capabilities of these systems, and a consistent focus on human augmentation rather than just automating jobs away. It necessitates a shift maybe from grand, often vague promises about the future to concrete, measurable, and clearly beneficial applications today.
Okay, so as we approach the end of Hassan's compelling and quite provocative argument, the author's ultimate wish becomes pretty clear. What does he hope for? He hopes for this dark shadow of marketing, as he calls it, to finally dissipate. He wishes it hadn't unleashed this unnecessary ghost of fear among us, this constant chant that everything will be lost, it's all over, humans will have no value.
He wants to silence the noise.
Yeah, the fearful noise. And he really questions the fundamental purpose, the ultimate value of a technology if its arrival is accompanied by such apocalyptic warnings.
Yeah.
He asks this very direct, almost philosophical question. What is the point of a technology that comes with such a terrifying prophecy?
Yeah.
It really makes you consider the psychological cost, doesn't it, of living under this constant low-level technological anxiety.
It really does. And that closing sentiment encapsulates Hassan's central critique of the entire AI discourse so powerfully. It raises an important question for all of us, really. How can we foster a more balanced, more informed, and ultimately a more constructive public conversation around AI?
One that avoids the extremes.
Exactly. One that acknowledges both its immense real potential and its current very real limitations without constantly resorting to breathless hyperbole or cynical fear-mongering. Hassan's core argument is that this deliberate cultivation of fear, often as a marketing tool or for engagement, ultimately erodes public trust. It creates undue anxiety, and it makes it significantly harder for society, for policymakers, for educators, for ordinary citizens to engage constructively with the technology's actual development, its complex ethical considerations, and its real-world impact.
It polarizes the debate.
It absolutely does. When the conversation is dominated by these extremes, AI as either our savior or our destroyer, it leaves very little room for the crucial, nuanced understanding that's necessary for responsible progress. His plea is really about empowering critical thinking over blind acceptance or outright rejection. It's about moving towards a framework where technology serves humanity rather than terrifying it into submission or paralyzing it with indifference.
And then, to bring it all full circle, Hassan ends his piece with what is, in many ways, the ultimate validation of his entire argument. It's quite a kicker.
Right, what's the final point?
He closes with a powerful quote, directly from Sam Altman himself.
From Altman, after critiquing him so heavily?
Exactly. Hassan implies this quote could be seen as a moment of genuine clarity from Altman, or perhaps, with a touch of irony, maybe even Altman mocking his own creation and the very industry he leads.
Okay, what's the quote?
The quote from Sam Altman is, "When bubbles happen, smart people get overexcited about a kernel of truth. Are we in a phase where investors as a whole are overexcited about AI? My opinion is yes."
Wow. Altman himself saying investors are overexcited.
Yes. That's quite the mic drop, isn't it? A leading figure, arguably the leading figure in the AI world, essentially confirming the very AI bubble thesis that Hassan has been so eloquently dissecting throughout his piece.
That is fascinating and deeply insightful, actually.
Yeah.
That self-awareness potentially within the very industry that's generating so much of the hype. It suggests that even insiders, perhaps the key architects and proponents of this technology, recognize the potential for an AI bubble. They see the overexcitement. And that just reinforces the need for all of us as learners, as critical observers, to approach these developments with a genuinely discerning eye.
Don't just drink the Kool-Aid.
Pretty much. Altman's quote serves as this powerful, almost unassailable validation coming from a completely unexpected source. It reinforces that central theme. The current AI landscape is characterized by an overexcitement, as he puts it, that may not always align with the immediate, tangible reality and the practical utility of the technology right now.
The kernel of truth part is interesting, too.
It is. It acknowledges there is something real there, some genuine innovation or kernel of truth, but the investment, the public excitement, the media frenzy have perhaps far outpaced its current practical manifestations. This kind of surprising candor, this frank admission from such a key player, it lends immense weight to Hassan's call for a more realistic, more grounded understanding of where AI truly stands today.
So, after all that, what does this all mean for you, our discerning listener? This deep dive into Mehdi Hassan's perspective, his article, The AI Bubble and the Art of the Hype, I think it's shown us that while AI is undeniably transformative, it holds incredible, genuine potential.
Which we must acknowledge.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it is absolutely crucial to try and separate that genuine innovation from, well, the sophisticated gloss, the sometimes deliberate fear-mongering, and that masterful art of the hype.
Sifting the signal from the noise.
Exactly. We've explored the profound personal impact these shifts can have on professionals. We've looked at the critical distinction between the current, quite capable narrow AI and the still elusive dream of AGI. We've dissected the immense power of marketing narratives and language, like hallucinations, and we've confronted the very real practical limitations when it comes to creative work, factual accuracy, and genuine efficiency. Hopefully you now have a more informed perspective, maybe a sharper critical lens to bring when you evaluate future AI news, and just a deeper understanding of the complex societal conversation happening around this groundbreaking yet often profoundly mischaracterized technology.
Ultimately, yeah, this deep dive really encourages all of us to move beyond the sensational headlines, beyond the simple pro-AI or anti-AI stances, and to cultivate a much more nuanced understanding. There's always more to learn, isn't there?
Always.
And considering multiple perspectives, especially hearing from those directly impacted, like Hassan the writer, and those who critically observe the industry from different angles, it profoundly enriches our understanding of any powerful new technology. It's really about developing a robust critical lens to evaluate not just the technology itself, but the information about the technology, the grand promises made for it. Understanding that every significant advancement comes with both immense potential and very real practical pitfalls or limitations.
So the goal is empowerment.
I think so. Our goal is to empower you, the listener, to engage with AI not just as a passive consumer of headlines and hype, but as an active, critical participant in its unfolding story, asking the right questions, demanding better answers.
That's a powerful call to action. It really is.
Indeed. And perhaps as you continue to navigate this ever-evolving landscape of AI, here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over, building directly on Sam Altman's own admission we just discussed.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the bubble, as Altman acknowledges, truly centers around a kernel of truth, what is that fundamental, undeniable kernel of truth about AI? What is the core value that remains, robust and genuinely useful, even after all the hype inevitably deflates and the market perhaps settles down? What enduring, practical value does AI genuinely offer, stripped bare of all the grandiose predictions and the marketing gloss, that will fundamentally change our work, our lives, maybe even our world for the better? Identifying that kernel, like that's the real challenge and maybe the real opportunity.